And now it's time for Through the Eyes of Dr. Mittleman, brought to you by Mittleman Eye, with 2 locations, West Palm Beach and Jupiter. And now here are your hosts, Jill Schweitzer and Dr. David Mittleman.
Dr. David Mittleman, what a treat to really get to find out all the incredible things that you are doing, not only at Mittleman Eye, but also in our community here in Palm Beach County and around the world. I've come to find out through travels, through photography, through philanthropic work that you do. So welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure, actually.
Oh, gosh. We've had the great pleasure of getting in depth about some of the really memorable things that have happened in your life as an eye doctor, as just someone who likes adventure and likes to try new things. But let's let our listeners in on let's just start. What's on the top of your mind? What was your last trip?
So my last trip was an interesting trip. I went to Tokyo, Hawaii, and Catalina Island, and I always try to add new places to the trip. The most interesting thing about this trip, because most of the places were not new to me, is that I was supposed to go to Guam, Tinian, and Saipan. Amazing islands stranded in the middle of the North Pacific. When I was supposed to go 7 years ago, I landed in Guam, all excited, seeing new places, and I was told, "You must leave immediately." And I'm like, why? Well, a typhoon is bearing down on us. Of course, it's a typhoon, not a hurricane. As a South Floridian, I know all about hurricanes, and it was a Category 5 typhoon. My fault. Typhoon season. I got on a plane and flew to Palau. End of story. I did not get to Tinian and Saipan. Fast forward 7 years later. I plan another trip to get to Tinian and Saipan through Guam, outside of hurricane season. And I thought, even with global warming, I'm safe. It's far outside of hurricane season. And lo and behold, 6 days before I was supposed to go, super typhoon Sinlaku devastated Tinian and Saipan. I had to cancel that part of the trip. And in 5 days, come up with an extra day in Tokyo, 3 days in Hawaii, which, of course, were fun. I love Tokyo. I love Hawaii. But there's a theme in my travel, and that theme is there seems to be natural or political disasters either immediately before I go or immediately after I leave. And we could fill up show upon show with stories of the devastation that my travel seems to wreak.
Oh, no. Well, the thing that I love about you, Dr. Mittleman, is not only that let's just say you're the 8-time winner of the Community Choice Awards here in Palm Beach County. And I do believe that travel and adventure and new experiences and cultures, being able to see other cultures and the way people live is so enriching, and it helps you in whatever you're doing. Not only do you travel because you love adventure and you love to see new places and you love to photograph, which I want to get into, but you also are doing some philanthropic work as well.
We do. At Mittleman Eye and myself personally, we do philanthropic work here in South Florida, and we do it abroad as well. When I was younger and the requirements were less stringent, I actually did some work abroad. Now, when we travel, we'll often bring glasses to villagers who haven't been able to see up close in 20 or 30 years, and I'll ask them their age. Many don't even know their age. So we'll try on different glasses, and when you put glasses on a teacher who's 60 years old, who hasn't been able to read his students' papers, and suddenly he can read them, the eyes light up. And it's such a great, deep, warm feeling to be able to help people, not only in our own community, but communities abroad.
Wow, that's very special. And so photography is a passion of yours as well. Tell me about how that developed and how you choose your subjects when you're traveling.
So many of the things that I do come from my father. When I was just a very small child, my dad had a very beautiful Hasselblad camera. He had a dark room in his basement, and I was always standing at his side helping him to develop the pictures. And they had to go in the bath. Most people don't even know what this is anymore, but it was a dark room with a red light, with a special paper. It was a process. And it wasn't so much fun to do the process. It was long, but it was fun to be with my dad. And that rubbed off on me. So when I went on my first major trip, I said to my parents and my grandparents, I want to take pictures just like Daddy. And so I was given a Kodak Instamatic camera. I was given 2 rolls of film to last the 15 days in Greece. Went off to Greece, and I went through the 2 rolls of film in 3 hours. And I was so excited to document everything that I was seeing, the people I was meeting. And so I spent most of my spending money on extra rolls of film. I got the film developed when I got home, which is a long process waiting for them to come back. For years and years, I used Costco, which did a very good job. And when I got the pictures back from my Instamatic camera, I looked at them and said, this is not what I saw. This is not what I wanted to document. And so I saved up. I got a second job, and I bought myself a Canon AE1 program, a real film camera, a SLR camera, and I taught myself how to take pictures. And what I like most about taking pictures is taking pictures of people. And if you come to Mittleman Eye, you'll see there are pictures all over the walls of people that I've taken pictures of in various communities. And the reason I like taking pictures is you can try to show the heart and the soul of people that you're taking pictures of, but it forces an intimate interaction with the person that you're taking pictures of so that you can get to know them. You can get to know what they want, what makes them happy, what makes them smile. And that's a treasure that is worth keeping and searching for, because to know people in a different environment, a different culture, really informs you about your own and how you approach the world and approach people.
Do you find that you, with the cell phones and the cameras on the cell phone, do you find yourself photographing differently now than you did before?
That's a great question. So when I first went from film to digital, it was a revolution. I limited myself to 2.5 rolls a day, because on a 2-week trip, if I took more than 2.5 rolls a day, I would have tens of thousands of pictures instead of thousands of pictures. When I went to digital, I tried very hard, like I did with the film camera, to set up each photograph as if it was the only photograph that I could take. I adjusted the lighting, I adjusted the background. And when I finally got the digital and was still doing this, one of the friends I was traveling with at the time said, "What are you doing? You can take as many as you want and just delete them." And so I went to town. So at this point now, I take 600 to 700 pictures in a day. Many of them are quite good, but it gives me the opportunity to play with the lighting without worrying that I'm going to damage the environment by wasting chemicals and film. It also allows me to take pictures in places I wouldn't, darker areas, because I don't have to worry about the speed, the ASA of the film. I can change it on the fly. I do now use a mirrorless camera. That's a step for me. I just started on this trip because they're not making this SLR, single lens reflex cameras anymore. And I do find myself using an iPhone because it is more versatile. It will give you a more wide range of colors. But I don't love using the iPhone taking pictures of people. It seems a little impersonal. You don't get as close to the people, and it's that intimacy that you take with a large format camera that really gets the other person involved in what you're doing.
Yeah, when I see a real camera, it gives the moment gravity to me. When I see a cell phone, it's just like it's almost disposable. You know what I mean? It can feel like everybody's taking pictures all the time with their phone, either selfies. And so I understand what you're saying. There's something about a physical camera that feels more weighty. when you're traveling, Dr. Mittleman, do you find you're able to strike a balance between having the experience and documenting the experience with your camera? I always, feel like there's needs to be a balance, or else you're sort of missing moments.
That's an interesting conundrum. Yes, I strike a balance, but I see the world better through the lens of the camera. It's more memorable to me if I actually look at the lighting, see the setup, and then try to take the picture rather than just snapping pictures away. So when I do take a picture, it ingrains it in my mind. When I take pictures of people, it cements that interaction. But it's always important to put the camera away at times and to be one-on-one with a person or one-on-one with the environment. If you're on top of a mountain, to just sit and listen, to hear the wind go through your hair, to feel the stone that you're sitting on underneath you. That's an important process. And it is true. If you're just taking pictures to take pictures, you're not experiencing it. So yes, there's a balance, but taking photographs not only documents it, but I think it adds to your focus on what you're taking a picture of.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's almost it's the difference between someone who's just singing us, because I'm a singer, I'm giving an analogy, singing a song, versus an artist who is feeling the lyric, emoting the lyric, embodying the feeling of the music and the melody. It sounds like you are fully present when you are taking a picture.
That's exactly the point. And as with singing, also with acting, if you just say the words, it's not going to come across as real. I'm a big fan of Broadway, of straight plays and of musicals, and you can tell a great performance because the actor embodies the role. He becomes part of it. And I like to become part of where I am and who I'm with. That also helps here. We think here in the United States that we do everything better than everyone else. And in many ways we do. But in many ways we don't. And when you travel and you see the way other people do things, it really is eye-opening. You realize that there's many ways to skin a cat and many ways we can do things better. And I've changed my life many times, things that I do many times, watching what other people do in their own environments.
So I have to ask you, of all the pictures, all the years traveling, is there one picture that you can think of now that was a surprise to you when it was developed, or just hit you more viscerally than any of the others?
There is one picture that hangs in Mittleman Eye in the Jupiter location of a woman in Ethiopia. She is fierce. She's dressed fully in tribal garb, and she is an extraordinarily affecting vision. The day I took that picture was a surprise. Everything about the day was a surprise. I was in southern Ethiopia in the Omo Valley. There are probably now roads there, but at the time it took 4 days to get there, overland, camping in tents, to see local peoples. And the Omo Valley is a fascinating place because there are so many different tribes and cultures in a small area. And so I was told that the next day I was very lucky I'd be able to see a bull jumping ceremony. And what they do in the bull jumping ceremony is a young man of approximately 19 years old has to run across the top of bulls, 10 bulls lined up in a row. Imagine this, 10 bulls lined up in a row, forward, backwards, 3 times while naked in order to become a man and take a bride.
Wow.
I can't even imagine standing on one bull and naked and falling and getting gored is just a horrible nightmare. So we set out for this event, this spectacle, which was not being put on for us as tourists. Many times these spectacles are for tourists. This was real.
It's a rite of passage.
Correct.
Yeah.
There are no tourists here. And so as we're driving in our 4x4 over roadless areas, we see these women walking. Villages from all over are walking to join this ceremony, and there are men behind them whipping them. I was horrified, and I said to the guide, "This is all just spectacle for us. This is a theatrical performance." And I was informed that no, this was real, and that the women feel that if they're whipped, their pain and suffering will get evil spirits to fly away.
Wow.
And I was truly horrified at this. I said to myself, where is the World Health Organization for Women's Rights? Of course, you can't interfere. This is their culture, their rituals. And one of the women just was spectacular looking, and she had an intensity of concentration. And I asked through the guide if I could take her picture. And she said yes. And that's the picture that sticks with me of all the pictures I've taken. The pictures that are the photographs, really not pictures, that are most absorbing are the ones to me where there's an intensity of focus, where you can see what's behind their eyes. And like a good painting, it doesn't say what's there. It just says there's something going on, and the viewer of the photograph then has to decide what that is.
Wow. That's, I mean, I need a moment. That's crazy. There are so many cultures and so many ways that people live, and I like that you withhold judgment, because I'm sure there are people who look at the way we live and say, what in the world is happening? Why this, why that? But it must. What's the craziest place you've ever traveled to? I don't know if that's the word crazy, remote, just.
So most remote is probably Easter Island, because it is the most remote. There's nothing really crazy about it. It's an island with great archaeological finds, great hiking, friendly people because they don't get many tourists, but I wouldn't say it was crazy. Mm-hmm. Crazy places. I was in Tibet when my return plane crashed into a mountainside.
Wait, back up. Were you in the plane?
No, I was not in the plane.
Okay. Just clarify that for us, Dr. Mittleman.
I have been at gunpoint many times.
Wow.
The first time I experienced that, it was in 1984. I was backpacking through Europe, and many listeners will remember backpacking. After college, it was a rite of passage, which doesn't happen anymore. But you had a backpack with all of your clothes, anything you could fit in it, and you traipsed around, most people Europe. Later on, it became Southern Asia. But you traipsed around Europe for a month, 2 months. I went for 2.5 months until my money was gone. And it was 1984, so there was an Iron Curtain. And being the intrepid traveler, I said, no Iron Curtain is going to stop me. So I got visas for Czechoslovakia, for Hungary, and for East Germany. I was traveling on a train from Czechoslovakia to East Berlin. And in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. on a July night, the train stopped. I'm in my sleep underwear. And they said, get out of the car in German. I finally figured that out. I quickly threw on my clothes. And even though it was July, it was a cold night. It was cold and clammy. I get out of the train with everybody else in my car. We're sitting on the platform at 3 a.m. And I say, I have to document this because I like to document everything that happens. And so I took my camera out and started taking pictures. And then I hear click, 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 click. Wasn't another camera. It was guns getting ready to fire with 7 guards around me saying in German, what are you doing? And I said in French, I'm taking pictures because I don't speak German. And they took my film away and they said, just sit there. They went and they searched the car, the train car, And we all got on and went about our merry way.
Wow.
And that was the first really terrifying incident, quickly followed up by another terrifying incident. I finally arrive in East Berlin. Now, I'm 20 years old. And even though I've traveled all over the world by the age of 20, I'm still fairly innocent. I still see the world through rose-colored glasses. I don't think there are bad people in the world. And I get to the checkpoint at immigration, and the woman looks at me and starts yelling, "Drops? Drops?" She was a very formidable border guard. And I said, "I don't have any drops. I don't have glaucoma." Even then, I thought I'd be an eye doctor. And she kept on screaming, "Drops, drops." And I don't know. I sat there and said, "I don't know what you're saying. I don't speak German. Do you have someone that speaks English or French?" And so she opens my suitcase and starts to throw all of my clothes all over the place. Well, her leader comes over and says to me, she wants to know if you have any drugs. I said, "Oh, drops or drugs?" And I said, "First, I don't do drugs. I'm going to be a surgeon. And second, why would I bring drugs into a communist country where I know the penalty is life in prison, even if I did do drugs? That would be insanity." And she looked at me, and I must have said it so heartfelt that she looked at the border guard, yelled at her in German, and the next thing I know, she's folding my clothes better than I have ever folded them, better than they come back from the laundry, straightening them out and getting the wrinkles out, repacked my entire backpack better than I have ever packed it. And the leader said, "Go on your way. Welcome to our country."
Wow. Wow. I mean, you must have thousands of stories, and that's what we're going to be getting into in future shows for sure, because I want to hear everything. As someone who has not traveled as extensively, I find it fascinating. I also think it is perhaps something of your generation and my generation that we were much more independent. We were much more encouraged, I feel, to go, discover, seek. What are your thoughts on that?
You're talking to a Jewish boy from New York with an overprotective Jewish mother.
Okay.
When I went to Europe at the age of 20, my mother told me I had to write a will because I was most certainly going to die in Europe. Oh, no. And that how could I be so careless to go to Europe on my own? And so I wrote my will. I still have it, handwritten on a notebook piece of paper. Of course, I didn't die. My grandparents, on the other hand, said, "Go. You're going to have the best time in the world." I think that our generation was more independent, but I think it's easier for people to travel now with modern technology.
True. Like if we don't know where we're going, we get our phone out and we don't have to get a map and try to figure out where am I and how do I get from point A to point B. We just get the iPhone out or whatever and we can, figure it out very quickly.
So that's exactly to the point of my last trip. So I was first in Tokyo about 25 years ago, before there were cell phones, before there was the internet. I may have had AOL in its infancy. And when you go to Tokyo, you ride the subway system, the metro, and there are several different lines. The train stations, the metro stations are enormous. They're overwhelming. They're an assault on your senses because of the number of people that are crowding in, the smells, the sights, the foods on display. In some stations, the live animals on sale for dinner. There is so much, and you get off the train, and there's upwards of 45 exits from the train station. And so I did assiduous research, and I had book after book that I carried in a very large backpack everywhere I went.
So when was this? Just remind me what year.
This was probably in 1999.
Okay, just getting reference.
A long time ago. And I had a book, which I still have buried somewhere in my travel guides, that had a map of every subway station and every exit and where every exit went. And I would get out of the subway car and I would open the book and I would think, okay, I need to go to exit 4C. It wasn't always easy to find exit 4C, but there are signs, and if you look long enough, you could exit the train station. Today, when I went several weeks ago, Google Maps will plan your route. It will tell you when the train is coming. It will tell you if the train is on time or late. It will also tell you which train car to get on, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, in order to make a transfer or to get to the exit you want. And it will tell you which exit to leave. So it says exit by 5C, Tokyo National Museum. And that's what the sign will say, much like Google Maps on your phone will. It is that precise. And it makes travel dramatically easier, which is not always a good thing.
You make a very valid point. I was reading recently that we need to consciously, purposely do things the hard way these days because it's good for our brains, it's good for our memory, it's good for preventing dementia. There's all this research showing just do it the hard way every once in a while.
That's true, and you have to do different things. So in my life, I plan trips, I do crossword puzzles, I listen to symphonies, and so the more kinds of things that you do will train your brain. But it's even a little deeper than that when you travel, because if you have an iPhone that says exit 4C, you're going to go right to where you want to go. If you don't know where you're going to get lost. And when you get lost, you have new experiences, things that you wouldn't ordinarily see. And it can be illuminating, it can be exhilarating, as well as frustrating. But there's something nice about just getting lost.
Getting lost. Dr. Mittleman, you are somebody I could speak to for the next several years on a myriad of topics, and hopefully that's exactly what's going to happen. I have so many questions. I want to get into a lot of other topics, but for today, we're going to say goodbye, and we're going to put a pin in it and circle back to where in the world is Dr. Mittleman next time.
Well, thanks for having me, and I hope everybody continues to listen in. And if anybody has any specific things you want to hear about, let the station know, and we're happy to discuss it.
Thank you for listening to Through the Eyes of Dr. Mittleman here on Legends Radio. You can tune in every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. for another edition, brought to you by Mittleman Eye, 561-500-2020 or mittlemaneye.com.